definitely have to give credit to one person in my life. Her name is Mrs. Rocha, and Mrs. Rocha was my junior high school teacher, and she's one of the few people in my life that had a great effect on me, because even when by the time I was in junior high, I was, it had only been maybe 3 years that we were in the U.S. and I ended up going through a bilingual program. I was in a bilingual class for pretty much my first 2 years in elementary school and my 2 years in junior high. And it wasn't until high school that I actually ended up in a normal English class. And I remember specifically how often Mrs. Rocha used to say, Mauricio, you can do anything. And back then it didn't mean much to me, but I did remember that. And in years later, that was something that stuck with me since then, because it's in reality that even beyond, this is the profession that Joe and I chose, but it really doesn't matter whatever your ambitions are, is that there's people, they're going to cross your path. They really believe that if you put the time and effort, you can do anything. I remember even as a kid liking airplanes, but I think that in any industry that you decide to get into, I think it always takes someone to get you what I call on the other side of the fence. And for me, what happened was Jeff Davis. Jeff Davis is an American who was married to a Cape Verdean lady who happens that my uncle is her uncle. Her uncle, yes. Yeah. My uncle is her uncle. So, yeah. So he was a friend of the family through marriage, and Jeff is, I think, still is. I'm not really sure. Is a merchant marine. So what he back in the '80s, what he used to do is, in the summertime, he used to take the 3 months off, and he would fly banners in Cape Cod. So one day he came over our house to visit us and my parents, and he found out that I was about 16 years old, and he found out that I didn't have a summer job lined up. And he said, Mauricio, I can't really pay you, but if you're willing to help me out, I need kind of a helping hand. If you're willing to help me out on the weekends, I'll teach you how to fly. And for someone at the age of 16, that all of a sudden is like, really? Yeah, I'll help you out, So that's how it started out with me. I actually did it for 2 summers, and what we used to do is during the day, I'd do all the setup for him of the banners on the ground. Like that, he could continuously fly for hours without having to land and do his own setup. So at the end of the day, on the way back home, he would teach me how to fly. And back then, it was a great airplane to learn how to fly because it was an antique. It was like a 1942 Piper Cub. And that's how I ended up getting the bug for flying, is that by the time I finished high school, I didn't want to do anything else. Once I finished high school, I ended up applying to Bridgewater, because at the time Bridgewater was about the only state school. They had an aviation program. It was very new, but it was a very good aviation program.
Bridgewater State College.
Bridgewater State College
in Bridgewater, Mass.
Yes, which Bridgewater is only about 35 minutes from New Bedford, and that was part of the reason also, is that at least if I needed to still stay at home and just attend school, I could definitely drive back and forth. So initially, I commuted, but eventually I ended up living on campus. So I ended up spending, I started in 1985, but I actually did not graduate until 1992 because, again, my parents were not rich, and but something that especially my dad used to always tell us is that education is the most important thing in your life. That's something nobody can ever take away from you. So since we were little kids, my dad always enforced that. So I knew that regardless of what I wanted to do, getting a 4-year degree was the most important thing. But because aviation is a little expensive, the flying part of it can be quite expensive. I had to study for a couple of years and then leave school, work to be able to raise money so that I could go ahead and do my flying. And that's the reason why when I left Bridgewater, I had a 4-year degree, but at that point I only had my private pilot's license because it was very tough to be able to pay for school and also for flying. So I actually did the rest of my flying once I left Bridgewater. And it was just happened that one day I just saw in the magazine this article that said, how would you like to fly for an airline with 300 hours? Well, at the time I didn't even have that, but I came to realize like 300 hours, that's unheard of because minimum of what you need is 1,500 hours. Oh. So to be able to do it with such low time, kind of piqued my curiosity. So, and the school was out in Farmington, New Mexico. Now up to that point, I had only lived in Massachusetts. So that was going to be quite a move, but I knew that at the time, I still believed that this is the only thing I wanted to do. I wanted to become an airline pilot no matter what. I was willing to do whatever it took. So I applied to the program, got accepted, and it's funny because at the time when I got accepted, I still didn't know how I was going to pay for the program.
100. All right, we're out of here.
Take him, multiply by 2, and then well, I went to, after I graduated from New Bedford High School, went to Bridgewater State College also, because not only Mauricio, but my oldest brother, Delvino, he actually went to Bridgewater initially for aviation. Didn't finish in aviation, but he had started his college at Bridgewater in aviation. So I was the third one to enroll in the aviation program at Bridgewater. And at that time when I enrolled, Mauricio was just going out to the program out in San Juan. So although I still wanted my 4-year degree and I wanted it in aviation, I didn't know if I wanted to do it in flight training or in aviation management. And with aviation management, I only needed to have my private pilot license. And so I figured at that point when I saw him go to that program and when he graduated from the program and was hired by Mesa Airlines, I thought, wow, seems like a good combination of two good programs. I can get my 4-year degree, get a good basis in aviation at Bridgewater State College in the aviation management program, and then I can do a full flight training program in New Mexico. And so I also, when I finished Bridgewater, I actually took a year off Bridgewater and went away with the Air National Guard for a year. So it took me 5 years of finishing because I left to go do my basic training and tech school with the Air National Guard, which was another thing I thought was good because joining the Air National Guard gave me another job, which was I was satellite communication specialist. I thought it was, hey, this is something else for me to fall back on, something else for me to learn. And it also helped pay for college. They had a GI Bill, and I had my monthly stipend that I got for going to drill once a month. So that helped with the program. Of course, worked the whole time at Bridgewater, of course, and when I graduated and left to New Mexico for the program, I was luckier because Mo had already gone through it, and so he pretty much lined up everything for me. Hey, do this, don't do this, watch this, So for me, it was a lot easier. I already had a apartment when I walked there. I had a bed. I had some of the things he didn't have. So when I walked out there, I already knew what to expect.